Yo, what's going on, and welcome back to another Genshin Impact video. And today the Keqing banner is here. Now this one's kind of an interesting one because Keqing has been in the game since the start, but I have never gotten to play Keqing, nor do I have a Keqing, so I thought it might be fun to get to play her, do the test run, as well as go over some of her abilities. Maybe if you don't really know what Keqing does, because you also don't have her, then we can go ahead and learn some stuff about her. Now, when we look at her talents, she's a one-handed sword user, so her first skill, her normal attack, Yunlai Swordsmanship. It's just going to be a whole bunch of rapid sword attacks, and I guess we'll see exactly what the charge attack does, but the charge attack affects some of her other abilities, so we'll probably try and make use of that and show what it actually does. Her first ability, though, she's going to throw a stiletto, which is like kind of like a small pointy sword, like really sharp, not really a slashy sword. That's what I'm trying to say. But so this stiletto is going to leave a mark called a stiletto mark at a spot, and when it gets to that spot, it's going to do electro damage. Now you can do two things with it. If you hold it, you can place it wherever you want. You can kind of place it in the air, and then it will stay up in the air, and when she uses the ability again, she will teleport to the stiletto and deal some AoE damage around it. So the placed one you can use to get to different locations that might be like more difficult to reach, kind of like how Zhongli plays as his pillar, you can climb his pillar, or how Venti uses his little updraft wind and you can use that to get on top of things. You can use this in a similar way, or you can use it to position yourself very precisely around the battlefield. Now the other thing that you can do with the stiletto is once you've placed it, you can use a charged attack, and that will allow it to... Does she still blink? If she uses the charge attack, she ignites a series of thundering cuts at the mark's location. So this one, you're not going to be blinking. You're just going to be doing a whole bunch of AoE damage around the mark, but you'll stay in your current position instead. I assume you still are actually doing a charge attack, so maybe you can like hit someone from behind and in front at the same time, so it might be useful against like a shield character. And then we get to Keqing's elemental burst, which this is kind of like the classic anime, like the sword wielder disappears and like there's a whole bunch of sword slashes everywhere. She does that, but with electro damage. And I don't know, the second part also just does electro damage in an AoE. I don't know if there's a difference between the beginning part and the second part, since they're both just electro AoEs, and the final attack deals massive damage. So I guess maybe like the attack scales, you got like different damages. So consecutive slash damage is probably the slashes in the middle. This one's the initial burst, and then this one's the last burst. So they just have different damages, which I guess the reason for them being named differently in the skill. Now her first passive talent is going to make it so when she recasts the first ability here, the Stellar Restoration, while a Lightning Stiletto is present. I mean, you can't really recast it if the Lightning Stiletto isn't present, so I don't know why they have to specify that. But her weapon is going to gain Electro Infusion for 5 seconds, which is going to make her very good at being in a pure electro damage character, right? So you're probably going to want to use her Stellar Restoration a lot, preferably using the recast of it to then get this first passive, which will make all of your damage into electro damage for a little while. And then what is the cooldown on this? The cooldown is 7.5 seconds, so you almost have 100% uptime on this. More like 66% uptime, which is pretty good, because then if you have an electro damage cup, you're going to be constantly having all of your damage multiplied, unlike some characters other than Catalyst users who their basic attacks don't deal in elemental damage. So if you have an elemental cup, it kind of isn't doing anything for you while you're auto attacking. And then we get into her next passive, and this one, whenever she uses her elemental burst, is going to give her 15% increased crit and 15% increased energy recharge for 8 seconds. So this is going to be really valuable for just spamming your ultimate as well as just making sure that it crits more often. So when you use it, you're going to want to spam as many of your electro abilities on top of that as possible to try and get your elemental burst back. But it's also going to help you just crit more. So if you don't have 100% crit, which can be quite difficult to reach, then your crit damage that you're building will be more valuable on specifically your elemental burst. Now her last passive skill, much like Chong Yun, if you have him, when you dispatch her on a Liyue expedition, she will take 25% less time to do it. Now we move into her constellations. Now, constellations, I know not everybody's gonna get them, but it might be useful to see what you have available to you just in case, because Keqing is one of those characters who's always available. So if you get one Keqing now because you really like Keqing, and then you just stop at one, but say Keqing drops for you randomly while you're pulling on another limited banner, then you're gonna slowly accrue a lot of these constellations just because she's always gonna be there. She's always gonna be a possible drop. So when we look at the first one, recasting Stellar Restoration, while a Lightning Stiletto is present, causes Keqing to deal 50% of her attack as an AoE electro damage at the start point and the terminus point of her blink. So it's just going to make it so I guess there's another, because when the start point doesn't deal any AoE damage at the base of the ability, but this will make it so the start point does deal AoE damage, and I guess then the end point is going to deal 2 different AoE damages, which can be fine. Honestly, this doesn't seem that great. It's probably not going to come into play, especially since it's only 50% of her attack. So it's not a whole lot of damage. So I don't think this constellation is really it. But I mean, Constellation 1 is the easiest constellation to get. I just don't think you should stop here. If you're going for constellations, I think some of the other ones are going to be more useful for you. So when we look at the second one, when Keqing normal, when her normal and charge attacks hit opponents affected by Electro, which you're almost always going to have them affected by Electro, then they have a 50% chance of producing an elemental particle. This is just going to help with, especially when you use your ultimate and then you auto attack after that, because everyone's probably going to be affected by Electro. So then you'll get this elemental particle and you'll have the increased energy recharge. So the elemental particle will be even more valuable for her. So this is like you're going to spam your ultimate constellation. If you get to Constellation 2, it's going to be easier to just keep firing off that ultimate with lower elemental or energy recharge. Now this one's just going to level up her elemental burst. And then we get to number 4, which I think number 4 is actually really good. For 10 seconds after Keqing triggers an electro-related elemental reaction, her attack is increased by 25%. So if you have her as your main DPS, but you bring out a support that puts out water, or puts out ice, or puts out pyro, then she's going to trigger those effects and get 25% extra attack for 10 seconds. And then after that 10 seconds ends, you can kick her out, put more effects onto the field, and do it all over again to just permanently keep up this, because it doesn't actually have a cooldown. So as long as you switch to someone else that can provide a different element for you so you can get an elemental reaction, then you can just keep this 25% extra attack forever, which is really valuable for a main DPS to have such a big attack steroid. Now when we get to Constellation 5, Stellar Restoration, her elemental skill is going to get extra levels. Nothing special there. Constellation number 6, when initiating a normal attack, a charge attack, elemental skill, or elemental burst, pretty much when you do anything, Keqing gains a 6% electro damage bonus for 8 seconds. Now I don't really know why it says that all of these are considered independent entities, because it doesn't appear to have a cooldown. But yeah, just pretty much whenever you're just always going to have 6% extra electro damage. But this does mean that if you're just walking into the middle of a group of enemies, you probably don't want to just press your elemental burst. You probably want to like auto attack once and then press your elemental burst, because then your elemental burst is going to deal 6% more damage, right? So just seems logical to auto attack first, get that free damage buff. Now let's go ahead and actually play Keqing. I have never played her before because she doesn't really have a quest, right? Or am I mistaken? Pretty sure she doesn't have a quest where you get to play as her. So we got Barbara and we got Keqing. We might take a look at her gear really quick because Zhao had really good gear. She has the mediocre gear that you would expect. This is the same gear that they gave everyone except for Zhao. Although she does have the Primordial Jade Cutter, which is a crazy good weapon. This is probably the best weapon on her, but not everyone's going to have it. Crit rate on her is going to be really good because she's going to be your main DPS. Oh, and everyone's water. Perfect. So let's try this charge attack thing. Okay, that's pretty cool. So that's your charge attack. And if you have a stiletto out, then like we saw, it explodes over there. Now let's try teleporting to it. So if we just tap it, we got some combat knowledge. What did I possibly do? I don't even know. Whatever, it doesn't matter. If you didn't know, when you get combat knowledge, just press G and you'll look at your little book and you'll get primo gems for looking at it. So might as well look at it, right? So let's place it like in the air like that. And then boom. Oh, so you could actually use it to get, because when you recast, you're getting the electro bonus infusion on your weapon. But you could also then combo that, like I did right there, into a plunge attack, because you go high enough to get a plunge attack out of it. Now let's go ahead and try her elemental burst. I accidentally just used this again, but so you can see that she kind of like flashes across the battlefield, appearing in a whole bunch of different places. And we actually got enough energy to use her ultimate again. It looks like if you don't go high enough with your stiletto here, that you leave yourself kind of like in a lag state. So either you want to go really high so you can chain it into a plunging attack immediately like that, or you want to go not, like you want to keep your feet on the ground so you can immediately attack like that. Because it looks like if you are kind of off the ground, then you can't plunging attack, and you can't do anything. You're just stuck there. But yeah, oh my, let's look at her auto attacks. Like her auto attack string is so cool. She does the little like disappear thing. Like Kaya appears behind people when he does his string, but hers is pretty sweet. She's just a really cool character. I want her just because she's cool, so I'll probably end up trying to summon for her. I know it's not a good idea, but it's probably gonna happen, right? And then her ultimate, like everything she does is really cool. She's just not the greatest, and it's because Electro's kind of a weak element at the moment, because Pyro with Vaporize and Melt comps are just really good, and Electro's just kind of there. All it has is Overload, which isn't the greatest, and it has Superconduct, which also isn't that great unless you're doing specifically a physical damage build, which I heard that you can go a physical damage build on Keqing. But the problem is then you never want to go to your stiletto, right? Because then you get your electro damage infusion. You don't ever want your electro damage infusion. Instead, what you want to do is do the charge attack to either cancel out of it for extra damage, or just throw it and don't do anything with it. But that's pretty much it for Keqing. She's not that complicated. She's been in the game for forever, so I'm sure plenty of people have seen her. But she's really cool, so I mean, I might summon for her. I don't know if I would recommend summoning for her, just because she's one of those characters that you're always going to be able to get. But she's really cool, and it's kind of like a guaranteed chance to get her, so I think I'll probably end up trying to get her. But either way, hopefully you enjoyed this one. Maybe you learned something, some ideas of how to build Keqing if you already have her. But hopefully you enjoyed, and I will see you next time.